What is up, you guys? Welcome to an interview about hope. Today, I'm super excited to be joined by Angelique Patterson, a new member of the Hope Squad National Council. If you want to say hi to everybody, Angelique.
Hi.
And we're also really excited to be joined by Dr. Diane Kelley, a member of the Okaloosa County School Board in Florida. And this interview has been a long time coming to coordinate this and get this ready. But we're really excited for the things that they have to share with you today about Hope Squad and about how they're bringing hope to their community by working together with the elected officials, with the youth, and with just everybody in Okaloosa kind of bonding together to support mental health and prevent suicide, which as we know are very important. So the first question that I have for each of you, Dr. Kelley and Angelique, is what drew you to Hope Squad uniquely, this program in particular, to prevent suicide and bring mental health to your community?
So I'd be happy to go first if you'd like me to.
Sure, yeah.
And I apologize for my voice. I've been over COVID for about 10 days now, and I still have the lingering COVID cough, as they call it. So the unique aspect of the Hope Squad program that really drew me in, first of all, I'd have to say it's people. The people, everybody to a person who's involved in this program. They're all of high integrity. They all have had experiences with the unfortunate element of suicide or suicide ideation in their schools or amongst their colleagues. And Dr. Hudnall himself, much like me, as a former school principal, had those things on his campus. I've been a school principal at 3 of our schools here in Okaloosa County. Unfortunately, we did not have or know about this program while I was a school principal. That's why it was important to me as a school board member to become really familiar with the program and to become passionate about the program once I did become familiar with it, so that we could bring it to Okaloosa. I not only made the motion to bring the program here, but voted for it and certainly have been a strong advocate for the program. The other element of the program that really spoke to me was that it was peer-to-peer. And you may have heard me say previously that when I was at the district level, I was curriculum director for several years. I bought programs for all of our schools, district-wide. When I was a school principal, I bought programs for each individual campus. And in none of those roles did I ever come across a program that so immediately and so directly impacted the lives of students in such a positive way. So all of those 3 elements were the primary ones for me. The people involved in the program, certainly the mission of the program, and the fact that it was a peer-to-peer suicide prevention program, which directly impacts lives of students and almost immediately makes them become more resilient, more caring and compassionate. And just knowing that it's on a campus can create that uplift. And just like we hear about the legend of the goose, you know, that the lead goose kind of creates flow and those behind him can live on that draft for a little bit, that air draft. That's kind of what the Hope Squad does at a school, in my humble vision of it. People can live on the draft the hope brings, and students themselves are uplifted by each other. And to me, those are the key components.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kelley. What a beautiful and concise explanation of what Hope Squad is all about. I wish that we could play just that little snippet for everybody who wants to understand what we do here. That's awesome. Angelique, would you like to share?
Yes, I would love to. So when Hope Squad first started in our school, as Dr. Kelley said, we didn't have it. So no one really knew what it was. And it actually came over the announcements. And they didn't say it was Hope Squad or what the program was for. They just said, if you have anyone that you trust, nominate them to be in this program. So we all went on Google Forum and we were nominating people. And I was one of the people that was nominated. So when we had our meeting, we were kind of all confused and thinking, okay, what is this? And when Ms. Law, our advisor, explained to us that it was a peer-to-peer suicide prevention program, I think that we were all a little bit taken aback, because I know that all of us had, you know, some personal experiences with our friends or even that person themselves who thought about suicide or, trying to help a friend get through that difficult moment. So knowing the exact way and the method of how you can help someone, how you can get help, how you can go to a guidance counselor, what the signs are, it really makes a difference. And I think all of us just want to be able to get that person the help that they need who's going through a difficult time. So to be that student and to have other friends in the same program, and you're able to go to these meetings and talk to each other and find out, okay, what's the next step? What can I do? And even trying to get more people involved is just really helpful all around. And I've seen the hope in our schools. When we do a little thing in the morning. It's one of my favorites during the holidays. It's just the small, simple task of passing out candy and asking someone, okay, how's your morning? How are you doing? How do you feel in your classes? Are you okay at home? Just getting that message out and making sure that everyone feels welcome and loved, I think is the main part. So I'm so happy that Choctaw decided to incorporate Hope Squad into the school.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. In both of your experiences, I noticed that experience itself was a key factor. And even though it's sad and it's hard that the terrible difficulty of suicide is so prevalent in our world today, that's the truth. And so we need to do something about it. And then the other element that you both talked about was people. This thing is too heavy. It's too hard for any one of us to carry alone. But when we connect and bond together, when we do those simple things like Angelique mentioned of handing out candy and letting there be a second where you can say, you're not alone, that brings us a lot of power. And for me, that's what brings the hope, is the people, the good people. And so for both of you, Dr. Kelley and Angelique, you bring me hope. And I'm glad that you're here on the interview today, sharing more about that.
Great.
So as we move into our next question, I think because the topic of suicide is so heavy and difficult, and because mental health can be a balancing act in itself, what do you both do while you're serving and while you're working to bring hope into your community, to practice self-care and take care of yourself? That's really a core principle of Hope Squad. And for each of us can be a little bit different, but I'm curious how you guys choose to take care of yourselves. Would you like to go first on this one, Angelique? Sorry, I'll direct that from now on.
So to practice self-care, I really love reading. That just takes me into my own fictional place sometimes, or rather that even be non-fictional. It's one of my favorite things to do. And then also I would say making sure that I have my support system, that I'm still talking with my friends and my family to make sure that everything is going well. And that's something that I also tell, someone else who might be going through a difficult time, is to make sure that you have that strong support system. Because for me, like, talking and communication is really what helps. So me talking to people combined with me reading just puts me in a really good headspace. And also from reading, you're able to, go on those different walks of life that you wouldn't be able to experience. So I would just say novels really keep me connected and tied to the important message that we're trying to work on now.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that unique way you practice self-care. And I also like how you mentioned how you communicate with your family. It's almost like they are your trusted peers who support you and are your Hope Squad. That's really cool. Awesome. Would you like to go, Dr. Kelley?
Sure, of course. So self-care to me, it reminds me of, every time you get on an airplane and you have to listen to their safety spiel, even though you've heard it 100 times, one of the very first things they say is, in case of emergency, put your own oxygen mask on first. You can't help those around you unless you help yourself. So I'm constantly reminded of that. And I have that picture in my mind that I must have my own oxygen first before I can help others with their oxygen and help them with their escape route. So that is one thing that brings that to my mind. And the other is that I teach a course on creating your own personal mantra. And without going through the steps of that, I'll tell you what my own is. So my own personal mantra is part of my self-protective measure, which I think self-care and self-protective measures go hand in hand. So my personal mantra is, in everything that I do and undertake, they must meet 2 criteria. Everything that I do and undertake must be both meaningful and manageable. When you think about those two things, meaningful and manageable, to me, in my positions, many people come to me and they ask me to sit on their boards, or they ask me to volunteer, or they ask me to contribute in some way, maybe financially, maybe by volunteering, maybe by just lending my name to their effort. I always run their request through that sieve of my personal mantra. Is it meaningful? And sometimes, actually, almost all of their requests are meaningful to someone somewhere, but are they organized? Are they doing things in a purposeful way? Are they just short term? Are they a flash in the pan? Or can they sustain their project? Is it something that will really be able to be managed in the long term? If it can, I say typically yes. If it can't, I have to decline. And sometimes, am I helping them see my rationale for declining? It helps them say, oh yeah, we might need to go back to the drawing board and work on this thing a little bit. So the self-care, thinking about the oxygen, putting on my own oxygen first before I can help other people, living my mantra, which my mantra will not necessarily be yours or Angelique's or John's or anybody else's, but I could put you through the exercise and you would clearly see what your personal mantra is that you're already living perhaps, or that maybe your goal would be that perhaps you should have that as your personal mantra. And then lastly, I think for me, I look for other activities that are not so heavy that bring me joy. And right now in this season of my life, things that are bringing me joy are the little things, like just having a nighttime session in the pool outside, maybe with a cup of lemonade or whatever. And maybe just spending an extra hour with my grandson who's about to turn 2. Just the little things in this season of my life that bring me joy help to insulate me and rejuvenate me so that when I do turn back to the heavy topics, I'm good. I'm all about it. I'm resuscitated, so to speak.
Yeah, thank you so much, both of you, for sharing. There's some really powerful and very applicable lessons in what both of you shared. And you're living them. I mean, Angelique, as a member of the Hope Squad National Council, as a member of the Hope Squad at your school, plus balancing family life and all the other pressures and struggles that you deal with just as a teen growing up in America. And Dr. Kelley, I mean, I've read your list of awards, and there's a lot of really incredible things on there, but knowing that each one of those things to you was meaningful and manageable, that makes it even more impressive. And so both of you, thank you for sharing those tools that you use for self-care. I love that meaningful and manageable in application to Hope Squad. I mean, what we're doing, fighting suicide and bringing mental health to our communities, obviously it's meaningful. Obviously it's hugely important, but also another important aspect of that is making sure that it's something that's manageable for every single student, that they don't feel like the weight of the whole world is on their shoulders individually, but instead collectively we can connect and bond together as Hope Squads in schools, as communities with advisors and with resources, and not only the peer support aspect, but with adults who advise us and who help us to keep going and to be strong. That's so powerful. So thank you both for sharing and for being a part of that. So sometimes this really leads well into our next question, was that sometimes preventing suicide can seem like an insurmountable goal, like it's something we can't control. Well, in reality, we can't control. All we can do is influence. In a way, all we can do is hope and use the tools that we have to help bring hope to others who are struggling. But how does Hope Squad empower you in particular to know that you can make a difference in preventing suicide and bringing mental health? Would you like to go first on this one, Dr. Kelley, and then Angelique, would you like to share after that?
Yes.
Sure. So for me, the Hope Squad made transparent a topic that was already in existence for all of the audiences that we serve as a school district. So it's not a hidden topic. It's just that through the Hope Squad, shining a light on mental illness in general, but suicide prevention specifically, as well as the other self-harm elements that we know exist in society. So since schools are a microcosm of society, we know that those elements are in our schools. So for me, making those issues more evident and putting them out there more transparently is a big thing that helps us to address it and helps me to feel empowered to talk about those issues. But then the multiple layers that are embedded in the Hope Squad curriculum that enables us as master trainers, as advisors, as students who are involved in the Hope Squad to be able to speak with a common language. To me, that's very important. We have a common language of speaking about a topic that, while previously maybe hidden, now is brought to the light, and we have tools at our disposal that we can now speak to those topics about and speak with that common language. And the tools that are embedded in the phases or in the lessons in the curriculum, to me, are so powerful. And by using that common language and the tools that are in that curriculum, we can better enable our students to be able to speak to their peers who might bring them a very heavy concern that they're going through in their particular season of life, and be able to address those in a purposeful way. To me, that is critically important. And I think about, I'm now 40 years into this career as a lifelong educator, 40 years of working with young people at all ages, and in my faith life too, having taught Sunday school and vacation Bible school and just being heavily involved with our young people. I think that this particular clip of time over the span of my 40 years, our children, our young people see the heaviest pressures of any I've ever known, whether it's academically, athletically, artistically, certainly socially. When we walk around with these gadgets in our hands, these little mini computers, these cell phones, that students who are not prepared maybe don't have the depth of parental involvement that we would like, that some of our students have, that they're scrolling all the day long, and all they see are these unrealistic perceptions of how a life should be lived, how a person should look, how a person's friends should be all about them all the time. They don't get the reality that that is staged. That is not reality. That is not how someone looks in real life. That is not how their friends treat them in real life. They're not throwing them skateboards and earbuds and all these things in real life. And their parents don't all look like people off TV, and they don't all interact like in a perfect world. That is just all staged for social media. So I think about the stressors in this particular timeline of our history that our young people are experiencing, and I think now more than ever, it's an appropriate time for us to have Hope Squad, because I truly do feel like it not only empowers me to make a difference, but our students to make a difference, our advisors to make a difference, and our school administrators will give testimony to the fact that it has made a difference on their campuses. So, I mean, I don't know what more you could ask of any program, but I couldn't be prouder to be even involved just this little bit that I am, but I'm just very grateful to have the opportunity to be a part of the Hope Squad team.
Yeah, thank you, Diane. I feel the same way. That's really powerful how each person has a role, and not only talking about suicide now, where before we might have been scared to even say that word of suicide, but speaking about it in clear words so we can all understand what it means. Part of the difficulty of mental illness is that it's not tangible. You can't always see it. Sometimes it's hidden. In fact, oftentimes it's hidden. But not only with the tools from Hope Squad, not only can we see what's really going on, but we can also see the hope and see the help. And we know where to point people who are struggling so that they can receive that. So thank you very much for sharing it. Angelique, I'll give you just I'll remind you of the question. When preventing suicide and when helping people with mental illness seems like an insurmountable goal, what helps you to feel empowered?
What helps me to feel empowered would be knowing that forward is forward no matter the speed. I think it's really important to know that whenever you're dealing with mental illness or struggling, that, it's not about the large steps that you're taking. It's anything. It's just making sure that you're waking up in the morning and, like those small tasks that, seem really easy to someone who's in a great mental health space. And it's not so easy to someone who is, having a difficult time. It's not as easy to wake up and brush your teeth or to shower, to comb your hair. So I think it's really important knowing to those students who are going through them just.
You cut out for just a second, right at the end.
Them just continuing and making sure that they're doing what they can is the best. And also what makes me feel like, like the task can be accomplished is that in our Hope Squad, we're also all about service. And we do a clothing closet for those in need. And it's really helpful for me and to other students in Hope Squad, those students who come in and need something from the clothing closet because maybe they're going through a hard time at home, or, like maybe they just got milk spilled on them that day. It's just the fact that they have somewhere to go, and that little small thing, just it's a piece of fabric, but that can make someone feel better and make them feel like, okay, you're not alone. We're here right now. And even if it's not just about clothes in the morning, sometimes students come and just talk to us about whatever they're going through with who they feel safe with. So knowing that and seeing that students actually do trust us and that our peers and our friends are able to come to us and have that open line of communication. And I keep stressing communication, but it's not only about that. In Hope Squad, you also have to be able to really comprehend because, of course, like with communication, it's nothing if there's no comprehension. So you have to have empathy and be able to respect what someone is telling you and take it seriously and not tell them that it's not there or it's not as significant. So just knowing that people are strong individuals and they're able to come to us, or if not to us, go to guidance counselors and get the help that they need. Because I feel like it becomes a little bit of a stigma with people, and those who get help may be considered as weak, but we all know that that is not the case at all, and that strong people are the ones who go and get help. So Hope Squad has really, I feel like, changed that whole perspective in our school, at least. And I know in other schools that have Hope Squad, that getting the therapy that you need, talking to someone and understanding that we're all going through something, whether that might be as significant as the other person's, or, like maybe it's a little bit different, but just knowing that we're here and that we're together and that we're able to work on this process as a whole.
Wow. Angelique, thank you so much for sharing that. I love how you touched on open lines of communication. That's so, so important. When somebody knows that there is someone who will listen to them and they feel heard and understood by that person. And how do we do that? I heard this once and it was hard for me to believe that there are some people who go through an entire day of their life without hearing their own name one time. Not even one time. They wake up in the morning, they leave for school, they get on the bus, go through an entire school day and get back home and go to bed before hearing their name a single time. And that just, like, it crushes my soul to hear that and think about that. But to know that there are Hope Squad members and people who care in schools who are willing just to learn somebody's name and just to open that line of communication, that line of communication can become a lifeline for someone going through a hard time, or for someone who's struggling. So thank you very much for that. And those small things really can grow to be hugely important, hugely impactful in the lives of each individual. So thank you for that. Why is it so important for young people to get involved in suicide prevention and in the discussion around mental health? I think you've both touched on this just a little bit. The unique structure of Hope Squad with peer-to-peer support. But Angelique, would you like to share a little bit more about why it's important for you to be empowered as a young person to work in this great cause?
For sure. I think it's important because it's, a growing issue. And of course, I feel like a big part of that is that everyone wants to be accepted and not everyone feels that way. And so being able to make sure that you're talking to that person, and on social media, as Dr. Kelley was saying, there are a lot of, ideas that are placed out there that may not necessarily be the case, and they're not true the way that you're seeing them. But we do scroll through a lot of feeds, and you're seeing, these pictures and you're thinking one thing, but it leads to another. So I just feel like making sure that you're going through your social media accounts and watching what your other friends are doing and being a part of this program kind of helps you to see something that you may not have seen before. I know that a lot of my friends, before they got into the program, they kind of saw that their other friends were posting things that were a little bit harmful, like it might have been a sad quote or a image that they felt like they related to, or a TikTok that seemed a little bit off, but we all just labeled it as, oh, okay, he's just joking or she's just joking. But, it wasn't always that way. Sometimes that joke was actually a call for help and them wanting to reach out, not knowing how to. So being able to be in Hope Squad and seeing how people and the different signs and the ways that you're able to get in contact with them and just really reaching out and noticing things that maybe you didn't notice before, because not everyone is able to come straight out and say, okay, I'm considering taking my life. It's not all that easy. So, being able to see, okay, do you need help with this? I saw you posted this, and having that concern can really be a helpful factor. And so I feel that all teens should be in Hope Squad so they can see those signs and notice what to look out for. But also just know that if you see someone who you feel like may be struggling, it's better to say something than to do nothing at all.
Yes, absolutely. I often tell people that part of the reason why peer-to-peer support is so important is because we know our teachers care. We know there are wonderful people within our schools, wonderful parents who are really involved parents who care so much and who would do anything to save or protect or help a child. But even then, there are simply things that those parents can't see that we see as youth. There are corners of social media that we understand that they don't understand. There are conversations in the hallway that we hear that they don't necessarily hear. And so that's a really important piece. And also part of the training is to be okay with calling out that awkward stuff. I love how you talked about some of those smaller signs will come first. It's not very often that someone will be comfortable to just say that they're struggling because of certain things in our society, including social media, that make that seem like a stigma, that make that seem like there's something wrong with you. But when you understand that we all struggle and that we all do need love and acceptance, and you're willing to invite people to share how they really feel, that can be a game changer for them. So thank you for doing that, Angelique. Is there anything that you'd like to share, Dr. Kelley, about why it's so important to have young people involved in the discussion around mental health?
Certainly, and thank you for the opportunity. The first thing that comes to my mind is that we know from research that a young person's brain is not fully developed. The frontal lobe that is largely responsible for decision making isn't fully developed until somewhere along the age of 25 to 27. But we know that antithetical to that is the fact that young people are exposed to situations beyond their control, and what they see on movies and even in games now and other forms of social media that do involve suicide, heavy topics that their brains are not ready to experience, or to experience the decision-making process surrounding that situation. So to me, that's one of the reasons we have to get our information down to the earlier ages, because they are not equipped yet on their own developmentally to make those hard decisions. So we have to help them. We have to equip them with, here's a situation through role play, as some of those are embedded in the Hope Squad curriculum. Through role play and through explanation, you might experience, if you face this situation, you will be faced with a choice. Here's some tools in the toolkit that you might use to strategize yourself for success in that situation. So that's one of the things I love about involving young people in these conversations and equipping them with the tools that are prevalent in the Hope Squad program. The other reason, or one other reason I think that we must involve young people, is that they are the very targets of some of these things that are floating around in society on social media and other things, even through the gaming situations. I've had very long conversations with our former and our current sheriff here about how some of the games are influential in putting in someone's mind a shooting mentality. So we have to equip our young people to deal with these things. They are the targets of people trying to lure them into horrible things, whether it's human trafficking, whether it's being too aware of body image, or whether it's comparison techniques of compare yourself to this movie star, compare yourself to this model, and all of those things that the young person's mind developmentally and maybe socially, where they're from and their culture, that they are not equipped on their own to deal with appropriately. So I just think the best thing we can do is indeed involving young people in suicide prevention and discussions about mental health, so that we can afford them the opportunity to have at their ready appropriate strategies to deal with these things when, not if, but when they are faced with a decision-making element in their lives, and they have to come to a conclusion on their own how they will accept or reject being a player in a situation. So I think it's very critical that we involve the young people, because they are the targets of these things.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Let me know if you see this differently than I do. But from where I sit, it kind of seems like nobody is prepared for the challenges that are coming at not only our youth today, but our world in general.
Exactly.
Things are moving faster. You've been working with youth for quite a while. You have a lot of experience, a lot of wisdom, and yet new things are coming every single day, and they're coming faster and faster. And that's why, go ahead.
It's ironic that you say that, because I just had a conversation with a colleague yesterday. Similarly, we were talking about cyberbullying. Someone had asked me, what's the biggest challenge you think principals face today? And I said, well, if you'd asked me this question 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have said, as a school principal, a bully. It's just so hard. We deal with bullies every day, and we constantly calling their parents and trying to counsel them into, not having those behaviors. But today, I would say, while a physical bully is bad, cyber bullies are the most difficult for us to work with, because they can be anonymous and they can just attack until they wear an individual down. And the same is true of grown-ups. I mean, we're not immune to it. As you said, even a lot of us my age are not equipped to deal with all of the things, because in the world of cybersecurity, as you alluded to, we have a fix for known attackers, but we're not yet aware of all of those strategies out there, because we haven't experienced them yet. So we haven't come up with a solution or a patch for that yet. So the same, I think, applies to mental health issues. We don't know everything that's out there, and probably every issue hasn't even been diagnosed yet.
Right.
So.
Yeah. I love the way you put that. And it just proves how important the dialogue is. When we work together, when we connect, across all lines that usually separate society, whether it be young people and adults, whether it be whatever different background you come from, and choose to understand each other, there's a whole new world of hope, a whole new world of understanding, and a whole new world of progress that opens up for us. And a lot of those issues that we face, you mentioned human trafficking. That's something that's so difficult and disgusting and nasty to talk about. But yet it's so important that we do something about it, because it's happening. We can't pretend that it's not. And the Hope Squad and the skills that we teach, that can be a huge layer of protection. That can be a lifeline for a lot of those difficulties that we face as human beings. We're all just trying to make it through some of these difficult things that we have, and hope can really be what helps to deliver us. So thank you for sharing that, both of you. What are some challenges that you meet in trying to make mental health more mainstream in your community in particular? Would you like to go, Angelique? Yeah.
I feel like some of the difficulties would be those people who still believe that mental health is not an actual thing. Those people who say, okay, well, you can just push it down, like sticks and stones. So just having that mentality is definitely not a great one to have. And it's one that no one should have, because mental health and physical health are not separate. And I think that people really need to understand that to know that what someone is going through mentally impacts everything. It impacts how they're feeling physically, and it also impacts how they're going through real life situations. So I feel like it's important to make sure that we all know how serious it can be. And people say that they do, but then again, they'll go back and say, well, you can just get over it, or, just don't really talk about it. Just push those feelings down, and the next day you'll be as good as new. So making sure that you tell someone that, hey, like whatever you're going through, you can talk to me about it, and making sure that you're also telling them that it doesn't matter how small it is, how insignificant they may think it is, that it's okay to still put it out there on the table and everything is up for discussion.
Yeah, thank you very much for sharing that, Angelique. Thank you. Dr. Kelley, is there anything that you would like to add?
Sure. I think for me personally, some of the challenges that make it difficult in my community would be that, as Angelique said, there is a segment of society that would prefer to ignore, put things under the carpet, put it in a closet, put it in a corner. Let's not shine a light on mental health issues. So I think there's that segment that we have to guard against, and actually just by breaking down the communication barrier, and sort of, as we do with our students, breaking the code of silence, helping them to understand that, it's okay to talk about it. You're talking about it in the closed circles anyway. So let's just talk about it. Let's make it transparent. As I said earlier, let's bring that out into the light. So I think that's a challenge. I think that for me personally, right now, because I am in a re-election campaign, and I do have an opponent, she has already tried to politicize my involvement in the Hope Squad and try to minimize what a Hope Squad can do for students and for a campus. So I think for me, the challenge personally is to stay above that and not be pulled into an arena that certainly we do not want the Hope Squad to become involved in, because we know this program saves lives. We know it has since 2003. And we know certainly even in my district, as young as the Hope Squad is here, we know, if, for instance, last year in one school, we know that 3 lives were saved. And that's one school. We have 40 schools here. So to me, that is a shame. And to me, it's despicable that someone who has the light on them for an instant will take that instant to try to politicize a program that is as wonderful and we know is truly as helpful as it is in the lives of students. And that really is a downer for me. I could not believe that, but people do strange things in a season of campaigns.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, Angelique and Dr. Kelley. And just to speak a little bit on that difficulty, I'm glad that you've already created some of those skills of self-care, some of those boundaries that you need to make sure that you can keep Diane good during that time. I really hope that can continue for you.
Thank you. It does.
At the beginning of this interview, I asked how you were both introduced to Hope Squad and what drew you to this program. But I'd like to share briefly how I was introduced to both of you.
Okay.
John talked with me about, I don't know whether you would call it a press conference. It kind of looked like a press conference to me, of the introduction of Hope Squad into your community, into Okaloosa County. And I know there was a lot of work behind the scenes and a lot of things that went on to create that moment of triumph for mental health, and that moment when we do really get to band together and celebrate for something good happening. But I just wanted to share with both of you how moving that was for me. And Dr. Kelley, as you just shared, 3 lives saved. I got goosebumps all over my body when you said that, because that is what we're here for.
That's exactly right. Exactly right.
And that's more important than anything else that could distract us from how important we are to each other, each one of our lives. So the other thing that I wanted to touch on is just the name of Hope Squad tells you a lot about what the program is about already. That hope, that belief, that believing in something that maybe isn't here yet. I mean, right now, it's easy to get bogged down in this world. There are hard things. Every single day, there are difficulties. But when we bind together, we can make it a lot more hopeful. And so for a moment, if you'd like to think about this with me, our imaginations can be really powerful, and our power of belief, our hope, something that's internal and that isn't out in the world yet, but can be if we make it, can be something that's really powerful. So I'd like to ask both of you, as you're working and as you're putting in effort every single day to create a better world, what progress do you hope to see because of all that effort that you're putting in related to Hope Squad? Would you like to go, Angelique? Sorry, I always forget to invite someone to share.
That's okay. I would say that I would just really be hopeful that some people would be open-minded. And I know that sometimes when you might have a disagreement with someone, or when you get into an argument, you're just trying to build on your own argument. You're not even listening to what the other person is saying. And we see that a lot happening on social media. And sometimes we laugh at it in the comments because we think, wow, like these people are not listening to each other at all. But so I would just really love if people would make sure that they're trying to see the situation from the other person's point of view, because if we did it that way, we would make much more progress. And I would also just want other people to know that a lot of people in this world just want to make sure, and I keep stressing the word on acceptance, making sure that everyone feels accepted and loved. Because if you feel accepted and loved, then you probably wouldn't consider taking your life. And that's just the truth. So making sure that those people do not feel alone, and that we're continuing to work on ourselves, work on our own mindsets, and making sure that we're not, too deep into values, that might not be up to today's standards, that things are changing and we have to change with those times. So I believe just really making sure that everyone is doing that, and that people are communicating with each other, and that people know how difficult it is in this world. So we have to make sure that we're focusing on each other, and that we're doing what we can to do to make sure that that person wants to be here, that that person wants to stay in this world, because we all deserve a place in this world, and no one here is a burden.
Yes, thank you so much for sharing that. And I'd like to acknowledge you, Angelique, for how good you are at listening. Throughout this interview, I can tell you've been really, really focused. You've been really trying to understand and gain perspective from what both Dr. Kelley and I have shared. And I appreciate that. I can tell that that is one of your really powerful skills as a Hope Squad member. That does a lot for people. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful. Dr. Kelley, what do you hope for?
So I hope, as a result of my involvement in this Hope Squad program, certainly the overarching hope that I have is that more lives will be saved. That's, I love young people. I can't tell them enough that, I get passion from being around their energy. I gain energy from them. It's like a snowball, I'm around them a little bit and they're so energetic and enthusiastic. And that just makes my enthusiasm and my energy grow. And so, first of all, I would say that I would hope more lives are saved, and that I can continue to be around young people, because they really are the crux of the future. And I just see young people like yourself and Angelique and others as being next generation's leaders of who knows what, of states and governments and even a president. I just see that really is our future. And so by saving lives, we are saving our own futures.
Yes, that's wonderful. Angelique, do you think, as well as being a clinical psychologist, you could maybe be the president too? I think that would be wonderful. Really, I've loved and enjoyed the time I've been able to spend with both of you today. And I just want to reflect back on something that was shared towards the beginning of this interview about how the lead goose will pave the way for the rest behind them. And that's something you said at the very beginning, Dr. Kelley. But really, that's what I see both of you as in your community in Florida. The bravery, the effort, the commitment that you put into Hope Squad, that you put into humanity and the people around you, and in building yourselves to be wonderful servants in what you do, and wonderful listeners, wonderful at accepting people. That is hugely powerful, and it's making a difference. It's making a difference today, And as we continue into the future, as we keep on working and keep on having hope, who knows what this will create. I really believe and I hope that it will create a world where we each feel like we belong, where we feel like we are connected, like we are cared about, like we have other people who we can care about and care for as well, and where we all have hope together. So thank you both very much for all that you do and all that you have shared today.
Well, it's been my honor and my privilege. Thank you for inviting me.